Let's take a look at how we write formulas of ionic compounds if we know their names. Let's start with this one thing you need to remember when we're writing ionic formulas. The overall charge of the compound must be 0, and we write it always with the positive ion first. So, in ionic compounds, we have a positive ion and we have a negative ion. Magnesium chloride here, we have magnesium, which we know forms a 2+ charge, and we have chloride, so that's the ion of chlorine. So chlorine, when it forms an ion, forms a -1 charge. We have 2 positives here, we have 1 negative. These need to be equal. So to be able to be equal, we would need 2 chloride ions. We have 2 positives, 2 negatives now. We can write this formula as MgCl2. Notice that although we have 1 of this ion, we don't write the number 1 because 1 is assumed in formulas. You may want to write 1 when you're first working on these, but remember you do want to eliminate that 1 as you get more experience with it. So let's take a look at the rest of these examples. So let's take a look at aluminum oxide. Aluminum, Al, 3+, oxide, O, 2-. This one's a little bit less obvious of how many of each ion we're going to need. This is where you can go back to your math classes, and we look at this 3, 2. We want to look at what's the lowest common multiple of 3 and 2. So the lowest number that both 3 and 2 go into. 3 and 2, we can both go into 6. So we need 6 positive charges, and we're going to need 6 negative charges for everything to cancel out. For aluminum, we're going to need Al3+. We're going to need 2 of these to give us 6 charge. Oxide, we're going to need 3 of them to give us 6 charge. We get a formula of Al2O3. So 2 aluminum ions, 3 oxide ions. So let's take a look at the next example. Magnesium hydroxide. Now this one's a little bit different because we have the magnesium, same one we did up there, so we know that it's magnesium as a 2+. Hydroxide. There's no hydroxide in the periodic table. Hydroxide is one of our polyatomic ions. This is why it's really important to get familiar with your nonmetal ions, because that will help you to identify this isn't one of those, this is something else. It's polyatomic. You would look back at your polyatomic chart and find that hydroxide has a formula of OH-. We have 2 positives. This is only 1 negative, so we're going to need 2 of these hydroxides to cancel it out. So I'm going to need 2 hydroxides and 1 magnesium. I can write that formula as Mg, and well, if I put a 2 outside of this, it's going to look like I've got some weird formula here. So I'm going to have to put the OH in a parenthesis so that I know that I'm talking about this whole thing as a unit. So I'm going to have 2 of those. Iron 2 oxide. This is a transition metal. We know the charge because it's written here. So we have iron, Fe, 2+, oxide, O, 2-, 2 positive, 2 negative. These are already equal. So I'm just going to have FeO for my formula. Iron 3 oxide, Fe3+, O2-. The lowest common multiple between 3 and 2 is 6. So we're going to have 2 of the irons. We're going to have 3 of the oxygens. Fe2O3.